Pornhub has 115 million daily visits to their website. Emotional development and growth begins whenever you start to actually allow yourself to feel these pains and this trauma and grow from it. You are not hopeless. You are not set to live in this state forever. There is hope for you. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Triumphant Podcast. This is episode 3, and honestly, I am super stoked to be here right now. First off, I just want to take a moment and say thank you guys so much for the overwhelming support that we've gotten for those first 2 episodes. I've gotten a bunch of DMs, I've gotten a bunch of comments, people wanting to have open discussions about what is usually a pretty icky and taboo topic, and man, I'm just so grateful for all of the responses. It's been overwhelmingly positive, and yeah, I just wanted to take a second and say thank you. We were looking over some of the YouTube statistics, and we actually noticed that almost 80% of our viewers are not subscribed to the channel. So if you would, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Give us a thumbs up, give us a comment, because what we're going to do is we're going to keep talking about pursuing health in our marriages, pursuing sexual health, mental health, physical health even. And so we're just going to keep this thing rocking and rolling. So if you'd like to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe. We'd love to keep talking to you about some of these things and pursue triumph over these addictions and recover together. So anyways, today, what we're going to be talking about, we're going to touch a little bit on a Bible story that's one of my favorites, but it's from a perspective that you may not have already read before. We're also going to be talking about some of the activity that goes on within the brain whenever you are watching porn, and it'll give you a little bit more insight as to why porn is so addictive. And then lastly, we're going to be talking about some statistics. Now, these statistics are actually supposed to give you hope. One of the things that I noticed whenever I was overcoming this pornography addiction was that I needed hope. I needed something to look forward to. So hopefully with these stats right here, I've just got 8 statistics. We're going to be going over these really quickly to give you some hope and some things to look forward to in your recovery. So first and foremost, if you've been here for these first 2 episodes, you know that we always start with a prayer. So go ahead and join me in prayer and agreement. Father, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak truth to deception. Father, thank you for all of these listeners who are wanting to pursue sexual health and purity in their marriages, in their own lives, in their relationships. And God, I just ask that you would give us courage to speak out against some of these really, really nasty things that go on within the porn industry, but also keep our own hearts pure and our own mind and eyes pure. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I'm going to start out by telling you a little bit what happened to me last week. Ever since we started this podcast, I've gotten a lot of people, like I said, interested in having conversation about porn addiction, their own personal struggles, and get to just, like I said, speak truth to some of these lies and this icky taboo topic, right? So anyways, I went to go meet with a friend of mine for the first time. I had never met him before, but everyone kept telling me, hey, you need to go talk to this guy. He's got an incredible testimony, and I think that it would be really, really good for the 2 of y'all to get to meet. So I was like, awesome. Yeah, let's go. And we had a phenomenal conversation. As a matter of fact, I'm going to invite him onto the podcast so that he can share more of his testimony, as well as some of the freedom that he's been able to experience and live out over these past 3 years. But anyways, I don't want to talk too much about his testimony because I'd love for you to hear it yourself. We got to talking, and we started talking about the story of David, and it really touched my heart in a very particular way. I've always known about David and Goliath, right? Who doesn't know about David and Goliath? It's one of the most popular stories in the entire Bible. I want to talk about the events that transpired before he went on to fight Goliath, because there's some really, really important things in there that God really highlighted to me. And it's really my heartbeat for triumphant. Just to be really forthcoming, my wife and I have come out and put a lot of stuff on the line. We've put our reputation. We've let a lot of people see the underbelly of our marriage and how things have been really difficult for us. But I strongly believe that the Lord can use these testimonies similar to ours to see other people become free of potential porn addictions and free of sexual immorality and start to live lives of purity and joy and happiness and true fulfillment. So, all that to say, we're going to be looking at 1 Samuel chapter 17, verses 25 through 29. And just a little bit of context here. Goliath, both of the battles are lined up on opposite ends of what I assume to be like a meadow. They're on, the Philistines are on one side, the Israelites are on the other. And Goliath has been coming out for 40 days and mocking the Israelites and mocking the God of Israel. So you can only imagine what kind of blasphemous stuff this guy must be shouting at the enemy that he's trying to destroy, right? And it says that one of the Israelite men came out and started saying, whoever kills Goliath will be granted a large sum of money from the king. King Saul will also let whoever kills Goliath marry his daughter, and the king will make sure that that man's family is free from taxes in Israel. So you secure the bag if you kill this guy. You get to marry the king's daughter, so you're automatically grafted into the lineage of the king of Israel, and you never have to pay taxes. That is a pretty hefty prize for killing Goliath. And so it says, David heard and started asking the men standing near him. What did he say? What's the reward? David clearly heard what the reward was. And he goes on to say, who is Goliath anyways? He's nothing but some foreigner. So this kid, David, is not a soldier, right? He's not a part of the Israeli army. As a matter of fact, he's still a shepherd. And so what he was doing was he was going back and forth from his father Jesse's house where he was tending to the sheep, back and forth for 40 days, checking up on the battle. And you can only imagine that this kid is walking up there like, oh man, I wonder who killed Goliath. I wonder who put the smackdown on that guy. I'm so excited to go over there and see. Apparently, if my geography is correct, from Israel, from Jerusalem to the actual battlefield was about a day's journey. So you imagine this kid just walking up there, getting hyped, like, oh man, I bet it was one of my brothers. I bet one of my brothers went over there and just put the smack down on this guy. And the anticipation starts to build over these 40 days. Whenever he gets up there and he sees that nobody has killed this guy and there's a prize, he starts asking around. And what me and my friend were talking about was like, he knew what the prize was. He heard just as clearly. And what we're going to see right here in just a second is that he had a specific motive in asking people, right? So pick up right here. He says, Goliath's nothing but some foreigner. David's brother, Eliab, I don't know how to say his name, hears David talking and becomes very angry and asks him, why did you come here? Where did you leave the sheep? And he's basically saying, hey, scram, right? Shouldn't you be tending to sheep? You're not a soldier. What are you doing here? And David said back, I have done nothing wrong. I'm only talking. Typical little brother, right? Now, he then turned to the other men and started asking the same questions, right? What David is doing right there is he's trying to bolster the hearts of the soldiers of Israel and saying, hey, that is a sweet gig. Did you hear what the prize is? Are you going to do it? Are you going to go take on Goliath? And then his brother gets pissed at him. He's like, I'm only talking. Goes over to these other guys and starts asking the same thing. He's trying to stir up courage in all of these soldiers in Israel. Now, a few of the soldiers got David and they brought him before Saul. Now, King Saul is standing, or I imagine he's probably sitting on his throne. And they said, hey, tell Saul what you were telling the other soldiers. And he goes on to say, people should not be discouraged by Goliath. I am your servant. Let me go fight this Philistine. The kid who wasn't even a soldier was going around trying to bolster the hearts of the men because he had faith in who God was. And he wasn't even doing it for the prize himself. He was trying to reveal to others, hey, This is the prize if you get to kill this Goliath, right? This is the prize. That's worth fighting for, right? So from here on out, everything that we talk about, I want you to hold within that kind of context. We're going to be talking about the prize and why abstaining from porn is worth fighting for. And we're going to give you some statistics to help, just reaffirm that truth in your heart so that you know what you're fighting for. You're not fighting for it just because you feel ashamed and guilty, right? You're doing this for a very specific reason, okay? So, first off, we got to identify Goliath, right? And we got to know some of Goliath's tricks. And Goliath in this context is pornography and masturbation, okay? If you are ickied out by those words, then you should just stop here. Don't finish this podcast because we're going to be using those two words a lot. I'm sorry if they make you feel cringe or clammy. We're just going to talk like it is, okay? So, porn and masturbation. Let's talk about what the brain actually does when you watch porn and masturbate, okay? There are two key areas of the brain, two key areas of the reward system are pulled in different directions, okay? You've got the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system, okay? The prefrontal cortex is the front region of the brain right here, right? Also, fun fact, it is not fully developed until you're around 25 or 26 years old. Keep that in mind. Give yourself some grace. You don't have a full brain yet if you're under the age of 25, 26. The front region of the brain is responsible for executive functions such as logical reasoning, distinguishing between good and bad, and impulse control. Okay? These are your brakes keeping you in line based on your morals and future goals. Okay? Everything right here. Future goals and morals all happening right here. Now, the limbic system, it's a complex network of nerves in the center of your brain that contains the pleasure center. It is known as the survival brain, okay? The limbic system regularly overpowers the prefrontal cortex for the sake of survival. When you touch a hot stove, your limbic system doesn't wait for the prefrontal cortex. It automatically fires and you go into survival instinct and you pull your hand away from the stove without even thinking. It's an automatic reaction. All of that is happening from the center of your brain. Now, let's talk about how these two parts of your brain operate and function together when you are watching porn, masturbating, sexual immorality, all those things, okay? After repeatedly acting out sexually, especially as a way to medicate pain, the limbic system can begin to treat porn or other unwanted sexual behaviors as a survival issue. That is huge. That's why it feels so difficult to stop masturbating and stop watching porn. It's because your brain has associated that with survival. If you don't do this, you are going to die or withdrawal. It overpowers the prefrontal cortex every time. Porn use has been rewarded in the brain repeatedly because it has brought great relief and pleasure, especially whenever you are trying to medicate discomfort. This is why you sometimes feel powerless and the urge seems to take over. Okay? We've got to understand how the brain works in order to hack it. Okay? Your limbic system believes that if you do not get this pleasure release, you are going to die. Okay? It's a big deal. It's a really, really big deal. So, what we need to do is we need to start understanding that we are not slaves to the neural pathways of our brain. We can start to override our brain and we can actually hack it so that we can stop and abstain from porn and live healthier lives. The first step that we're going to do is we're going to start looking at what the reward is. Okay? Some stats right here just to show like how intense this really is. How many people are caught in this limbic loop, as I like to call it, people who think that they're going to die without this pleasure relief. Pornhub has 115 million daily visits to their website. This results in an average of 42 billion visits per year. Okay. So I always get lost with these kind of big numbers. So let's break that down a little bit more. That's enough visits for every man, woman, and child in the United States to visit the site 25 times apiece. And that's just one porn site of the tens of thousands that exist out there right now. Obviously, based on what we know about our brain and why this is so addictive, we can understand how so many people can be caught in this loop and continually going to porn for relief. One of the things that has helped me so much is that I have started counting the cost, just like David was doing to bolster the hearts of the men. He was starting to show them the reward. And I started to identify, you know what? Life kind of sucks right now. I'm ashamed. I'm miserable. I feel helpless. My sex life with my wife sucks. We're always yelling at each other. I always feel angry. There is no way out of this cycle for me. I feel stuck and I feel miserable. Obviously, that's not a place that I want to stay, right? So, if you're in that boat, let's talk about some stats here that will help you understand what's at stake and what's there for you to actually lay hold of in your future, okay? These are the possible outcomes for you. So I'm actually going to cite a few of these on here. Some of these stats are by Dr. Doug Weiss. I'm not exactly sure how to say his last name. He is a psychiatrist. He is also a licensed counselor who specializes in porn addiction recovery and sex addiction. Okay. So the number one thing that I want to talk about that I've seen as most fascinating is that men who abstain from porn within the first 12 months of their sobriety, we'll call it sobriety, actually saw that they doubled their annual income within those first 12 months. Let's stop and think about that. I heard it said once that lusting is actually a full-time job. It takes up the same amount of focus and concentration in your brain whenever you are addicted to porn. And I can speak on this. It takes up the same amount of space in your brain as a 40-hour-a-week job would. You're always thinking about it. You're always trying to stay away from it, but you're succumbing to it on social media, going to these sites you shouldn't be going to, hiding it from people. That takes a lot of effort in your brain. Imagine if you were able to free up all of that effort. How much more would you be capable of? How much more emotional bandwidth would you have? Mental bandwidth, physical bandwidth. There'd be so much more time in the day to go and pursue the things that you want to pursue, the things that you're good at. Go be an entrepreneur. Go be a craftsman. Go get better at your trade. You know, all of these things are much better uses of your time, and you finally have the bandwidth to go and pursue them. I wholeheartedly believe in this first stat right here. And I'm proclaiming that I'm going to see it come true in my life. So if you want to pursue that too, let's do it. Let's start today. And a year from now, let's visit together and let's talk about how much money you made and how much better a potential outcome you've got. That one, again, is by Dr. Doug Weiss. I believe the first 5 of these are by Dr. Doug. Number 2, emotional development and growth begins to happen rapidly after abstaining from porn and masturbation. Okay, so let's think about that again. This is kind of within the same vein as that first topic, right? If you have been running to porn and masturbation and developed an addiction to this type of behavior because you're trying to medicate pain, that pain is never going to be truly medicated because we're just running to another substance to help us forget about the pain. The pain remains in our brain. Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about it like this. Whenever you have a fight or flight kind of trauma, your brain is scarred with that memory until you resolve it. So this could be from childhood trauma. This could be something that you're feeling, whenever you got rejected in high school at prom or something like that. And you're just you didn't feel confident. And so you ran to porn because, that kind of sexual behavior was within your control and you weren't getting rejected. That was oddly specific. Maybe that's for someone out there. I don't know. Emotional development and growth begins whenever you start to actually allow yourself to feel these pains and this trauma and grow from it. Number 3, Men are able to build authentic relationships rather than isolate. The most common mental side effects from porn are shame and guilt. Doing without porn frees you from these mental and emotional burdens. Now, for me, porn would isolate me for days. Whenever I was truly, truly in the midst of my addiction before I got married, it was like the Wild West, It'd be something where I could just lock myself in my house for a weekend and I wouldn't have to leave. I would just leave to go to the gym and then come back and then play video games and watch porn, right? During that time, I had a gaping hole in my heart where I needed to have some type of true friendship that I was not allowing myself to have because I would constantly isolate myself. Number 4, men and women are both able to heal from trauma by replacing lies with truth. Okay? The uncomfortable truth of abstaining from porn will allow you to seek emotional healing and health from these hurts in your life. Like we said, if we are just running to medicate, we are not helping anything. We are just kicking the can further down the road. Number 5, this is one that hits really close to home. Porn users report less frequent sex with their partner and less satisfying sex than others who don't watch porn. Refraining from porn actually allows you to have frequent and pleasurable sex with your partner. To me, that's more than enough reason to quit doing this thing. The whole fantasy of going to porn was that you could get a release and it's all within your control, and that is your measure of pleasure. Now, the truth is that measure of pleasure is nothing compared to what it could be between you and your spouse. Statistically, men and women who view porn are less committed to spiritual practices and services and are more prone to have religious doubts. Refraining from porn allows you to practice your spirituality more freely. You're free of any type of shame and guilt that you may be taking in. And you're able to practice more frequently and thus address any concerns or religious doubts that you may have. So, this is going to help your faith. Number 7, this is a big one. More than half of reported divorces mention porn as a contributing factor in the divorce. Refraining from porn decreases your chances of divorcing your spouse and increases your chances of having a happier and healthier marriage. All you single guys out there, stop it now while the getting's good. We made a reel about that. That's one of the highlights that my wife talked about in the last episode. Do better for yourself and for your spouse now. You don't have to kick this down the road. Think, I'll just get better whenever I'm married. No, do it now. Number 8. This one, I found this one to be fascinating. The practice of numbing negative emotions actually resulted in a stunted emotional maturity. The repeated numbing of negative emotions also resulted in a numbing of positive emotions as well, and results in a perpetual downward mental spiral. Refraining from porn results in emotional freedom and getting to experience the fullness of joy in life. Okay? These are just 8 reasons why you should stop watching porn. 8 solid reasons. Go back and listen through these again. Claim this positive outcome over your life right now. The next episode that we're going to be talking about are some practical ways to start doing this. Okay? Here are the reasons why you should start doing it. The next episode is going to be talking about how you can start doing it. We're addressing the potential outcome that you can have for your life. We are establishing hope. You are not your addiction. You are not hopeless. You are not set to live in this state forever. There is hope for you. Okay? You have to know that. If you don't believe that, you're going to stay in this spiral forever. That's actually how we're going to end today's podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in. I really enjoy this kind of stuff. I love getting to talk over stats and data just because it puts it into a more real perspective for me. And it makes it so much more tangible. This big ethereal thing like porn addiction and, it's so difficult to fight against. Well, whenever you can put some basic principles and understand how your brain works, it makes it a whole lot easier to understand. So I hope that you feel encouraged. I hope that you feel hopeful. And I hope that you have a great rest of your week and rest of your day, evening time, whenever you're watching this. So, anyways, like I said, if you'd like to see more content like this, please feel free to subscribe, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a comment on what other kind of content you would like to see on the channel, and I'd be sure to get back to you. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and God bless.